The level of panic and desperation that has arrived at the inner reaches of Donald Trump's mind hit a sort of climax over the weekend. And we're going to dig into a few of the different ways in which this happened. One is Donald Trump inventing an absolutely absurd conspiracy theory in another one of these wild anti-impeachment outbursts. This one contained the suggestion of crimes for Republicans to commit, also involving Adam Schiff allegedly editing documents from so-called Never Trumpers. And there's so much going on here that you really have to research each element of the conspiracy to even have a shot at understanding what Trump is trying to argue, never mind that it makes no sense. So let's look at it piece by piece. It was a 3-tweet outburst, but I think we're better served looking at it tweet by tweet and really breaking down what's being said here. And what's important is we can't allow this stuff to become mainstream talking points because there's just nothing to it. And very quickly, Trumpists latch onto this stuff. And it's like you can't turn back the floodgates or unring the bell. So first tweet, quote, "If shifty Adam Schiff, who is a corrupt politician who fraudulently made up what I said on the call, is allowed to release transcripts of the Never Trumpers and others that are and were interviewed, he will change the words that were said to suit the Dems' purposes." So put aside the grammatical bastardization of the English language that's going on here and go through assertion by assertion. There's no evidence of Adam Schiff being corrupt. This is straight out of Sean Hannity's playbook. Sean Hannity's the Fox News host and friend of Donald Trump, who's been claiming that Schiff is a corrupt leaker, but there's no evidence of that. Of course, they don't care about evidence. It just makes a nice story. Second, Adam Schiff hasn't made up anything that Donald Trump said on the call. What we know Trump said, because Trump released it in a partial transcript, which Trump thought vindicated him, was actually extraordinarily incriminating. And we know that most of the call was missing from the partial transcript that was released. Number three, Trump talking about transcripts of so-called Never Trumpers. Trump is referring to the fact that there are allegedly people involved in the Ukraine fiasco who allegedly didn't support Trump in 2016, which is most people in the country. Remember, Trump lost the popular vote to Hillary and half the country didn't vote. So like 76, 77% of the country did not vote for Donald Trump in 2016. That doesn't make them corrupt. It doesn't make them untrustworthy. And then again, alleging without any evidence that Adam Schiff will manipulate transcripts, which is a horrible allegation, and there is no evidence of that whatsoever. Second tweet, Republicans should give their own transcripts of the interviews to contrast with Schiff's manipulated propaganda. House Republicans have nothing to do with Shifty's rendition of those interviews. He is a proven liar, leaker, and freak who is really the one who should be impeached. Again, using the false basis that Adam Schiff faked transcripts to then suggest Republicans effectively forge their own transcripts, right? These would be crimes. Trump, I'm sure, if asked, would say, no, Schiff faked transcripts, so I'm recommending Republicans release the real transcripts. This is bogus. If Republicans release alternative transcripts, they would be doctored. They would be what Trump is accusing Adam Schiff of having published, and those would be crimes, okay? And then again, throwing in that Schiff is a proven liar, leaker, and freak, for which there is no evidence. And just a reminder, this is the president of the United States talking this way about other elected officials, high-ranking ones at that. This is a president of the United States acting like a lying, petulant child who is, by the way, extremely unbalanced. I mean, think about it. If you had a 9-year-old and you found out that in school they were behaving this way and treating other classmates in this way, they would be sent for a mental health evaluation. They would be screened for personality disorders. In our case, it's the president of the United States who's behaving that way. And then the third of the 3 tweets in this unhinged rant, Trump saying, quote, "False stories are being reported that a few Republican senators are saying that President Trump may have done a quid pro quo, but it doesn't matter. There's nothing wrong with that. It is not an impeachable event. Perhaps so, but read the transcript. There is no quid pro quo." Well, there's actually a very well-sourced story in the Washington Post which says that it's true. There are Republican senators considering acknowledging that there was a quid pro quo. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to abandon Trump. They will say what Trump is saying, which is a quid pro quo is just fine, which is what Donald Trump also does. Trump says, even if there was a quid pro quo, it doesn't matter. There's nothing wrong with it. And yet again, the transition from it definitely didn't happen to even if it happened, it would be okay. It's not a crime. It's not impeachable. That transition starts to take place, and that's a transition we're well acquainted with in the Trump era. This man must be removed. He must be removed. And the way to do it at this point, still most likely, is just voting him out in November of 2020. Hiring can be an excruciatingly slow and frustrating process. Cafe Altura's COO, Dylan Miskowitz, needed to hire a director of coffee for his organic coffee company, but he was struggling to find applicants that were qualified. So he switched to ZipRecruiter, which doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds the candidates for you. Their technology will identify people with the right experience and invite them to apply to your job. So you very quickly start getting qualified applicants. Dylan posted his job on ZipRecruiter and said he was impressed with how quickly he had great candidates apply. He used the candidate rating feature on ZipRecruiter to filter applicants so he could focus on the most relevant ones. And that's the story of how Dylan found his new director of coffee in just a few days. So with results like that, it is no wonder that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See why ZipRecruiter is effective for businesses of all sizes by trying it for free at ziprecruiter.com/Pakman. That's ziprecruiter.com/PAKMAN. One more time, ziprecruiter.com/Pakman, the smartest way to hire.